Okay. Hi everyone. My name is Saquina Latif from Hello from Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. So today I'll be talking about romancing the myths and legends of Southeast Asia. So again, thank you to the Amaze team for giving me the opportunity to speak, especially about Southeast Asian myths and culture on this platform. It's very exciting for me to talk about the things that I love and share the ideas that we have here in Southeast Asia with everyone here. So before anything, I think I'm going to start with introduction of myself. My name is Sakina. I'm one of the co-founders and currently the managing director of Persona Theory Games. We're based in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. Currently, we're working on a game called Cabaret. We're also working on an untitled game and also the Lonely Hearts Pet Shop. So yeah, this is me, and that's my cat Flynn. Just an introduction with my team. The one on the left is my core team. So those are my co-founders, Buddy and Derek, and my junior game designer Joshua, art director Michelle, and my lead programmer Hilmi. On the right is our audio team, Hello Universe. So they do all the audio in all our games, and they also helped out with a lot of the local indie game scenes here with music and audio for their games. So, just a short introduction about Persona Theory games. We make a lot of games based on Southeast Asian culture. A primary game that we released last year was called Fires at Midnight. That was a bit more an intimate story between two couples set in Kuala Lumpur. And then now, currently, we're working on Cabaret, and in the future, we're working on the Lonely Hearts Pet Shop. So, what I'm focusing today is mostly how we make Cabaret and introducing you guys to the myths and legends of Southeast Asia. And before I talk about what our myth and culture is, I would like to talk about a little bit about the Malaysian gaming scene here, which is relatively young, but we are a very growing community of indie devs. So on the right, you see there are many different types of indie games that Malaysia has done. Some of these are done by friends. Some they're all from different parts of Malaysia and also different size. Some of them are smaller, some of them are bigger. The ones you see in the middle, Bacon Switch and NSR, are considered the more triple A of the group, while the others are very indie. And some of these, especially the two on top, Rhythm Doctor and The Company Man, has been released, and I think they get really good reviews, so you can check them out on Steam. What Malaysia can do. A lot of our success in the how Malaysia has grown in terms of the gaming industry actually has a lot to do with this man named Hasnul, who has through his time in MDAC has actually helped funded some of these games. MDAC is a government body in Malaysia that has helped with tech games, and some of these games were funded by them. And now he's heading PlayStation here in Malaysia, so we're excited for that. So without further ado, I'm going to talk more about the main meat of the my talk will be about the introducing you guys to what Southeast Asia is. So uh, Persona Theory Games, we come from different backgrounds. We were previously in film before COVID, so we would travel with an NGO called Pusaka to document different art forms here that we have in Malaysia. So one of the things that we did, this was featured in a festival called the Obscura Festival about the Kuda Kepang art form. So a lot of our art form has roots in Java. So when you see these performances, a lot of it borrows heavily on the spirituality of what they believe in. So without further ado, I think I'll just show you guys rather than speak mostly about it. I hope the audio is working too. Cool. So what you just saw there was art form called Kuda Kepang. The performers would ride this horses that you see them on the picture over there. So it's a ritual for them to bring to perform, and a lot of it, a lot of the time is done by men, but there's also women who are known to do it as well. So a lot of the art forms here in Southeast Asia is family rooted. A lot of the time it goes from bloodline to bloodline, so it's not an outsider generally they can participate, but most of the time they don't have the full, they call it ilmu, which is the knowledge of the arts. Some masters of the arts that they can pass down what they know to the next people who have this bloodline. So this is how the art survives. Right now, though, because of the political climate here in Malaysia, things have been very difficult for this for people like them to perform because it is seen as a bit, I guess, unreligious. Um, to them, to these people who actually perform the arts, they themselves are Muslims too, but they also believe that this is their way of being connected to their bloodline, their ancestors, and the spirit of the land and the spirit within them. So each of them will have different. Some of these guys will have different animals that they will embody when they go into these rituals, like things that you see in the video just now. Some of them have already like have a connection with different spirits, like the tiger, which I will speak a bit more later when it comes to cabaret. um, so what we did, the next group of art that I'm going to show is a more women-centric art called the Mat. This is what we did before COVID. We were documenting the family. This is they call themselves the Cahaya Matahari family. Is a generational matriarchal family that pass down their knowledge of their arts from one generation to the next. They are also there was during this time when we were filming them, there was even a fatwa against celebrating. So while we were actually filming this, I cannot show the whole video. If not, it'll take over the entire talk. But the during the time when we were filming this, there was even like a risk of us all being raided by the police. So right now, as of now, it is quite seen as illegal and to some people even immoral, but to these people, and it is definitely something that is heavily rooted to our own culture, especially in the state that this Mak arts take place in. So, and also, it is also seen that in this art form, there are men and women who celebrate and they perform the Mak. There are also men who would cross dress, who are more feminine. So this art form does seem to be more like gender fluid in nature, and the men and the women would perform together. So one more reasons why some people find it a bit immoral, but for us, it's definitely something that we want to show more of, especially because it's a dying art. So when we were doing our game called Cabaret, we we researched a lot of Southeast Asian culture, especially our own what we have here in our own backyard. Um, I personally grew up a lot in the West. I grew up in London, so when I came back to Kuala Lumpur, I felt a bit disconnected to who I was as a Malaysian. So part of me wanted to know more about my own culture. So that was how we began our research into the different art forms, speaking to different masters that we have here. Unfortunately, due to COVID, they can't perform. So it remains to be seen how we can preserve the arts that we have here in Malaysia, especially the true masters of our arts. So I'm going to start the next part of the talk, which is more to do with Southeast Asian myths. Um, so a lot of our own performances, when it comes to Malay arts or Indonesian arts, we always start with this. Um, it is like the setting of the stage. It is the opening of the stage. So in a way, I am opening the stage to welcome all of you into the spiritual world of cabaret. And also depicted on this thing is once you've played the full game of cabaret, which will be released probably next year, you will see how uh, how the story is actually in this. So again, a lot of our research has to do with um, our culture, but not just our culture, but our brothers and sisters of Southeast Asia. Like we 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 are very similar to Indonesia, especially like I said just now with the kuda kepang and a lot of our local arts actually comes from Java. So there's a lot of similarities between our art forms. So one of the things that we researched, this is called wayang kulit, which is shadow puppets. I know there's a version of this in China, Germany. So this is our version. There's different styles of the shadow puppets. Wayang kulit actually translate to shadow skin. Sounds a bit morbid, but yeah. So these are Javanese shadow puppets, and these are more. The one on the left is more Malaysian. So if you look carefully at the details in the puppets, then that is how you will know a Malaysian shadow puppet. Like on the left, there's more curves, and then on the right is it's more Javanese, which has more sharp points, and they tend to be longer. And then our Malaysian one tends to be a little bit wider with curves and the less colorful than the Javanese one. So in Malaysia, we still um, they before COVID, there still used to be like mini wayang kulit shows here and there. There's even one group that we watched where the whole show was performed by a little boy. So there's a lot of variety in the shows. Most of them depict the different types of stories that we have here in Malaysia. Some of them are Javanese in nature. Some of them are even the Ramayana, the Hindu legends. So it varies from master to master and how they're feeling at that time, what they want to say, and what they want to perform. This was in the museum before COVID. We were supposed to do things with the museum, but COVID happened. But you see here, these are very old shadow puppets. Then you see the instruments. It's quite common that you see them in performances. So when we research the different style of wayang kulit, we were our art director Michelle was also testing out how she wanted to depict each character, because each character, if the lightning strikes, you will see the shadow versions of the characters. But these are the final forms that you will see them in the game. We like the one on the left is more Malaysian in nature. The one on the right have a little bit of both. There's a reason to that as well. And yeah, so just a little bit of introduction. Since we all can't travel, I'm going to show you a bit of Malaysia. This is the three of these pictures right now that you see is from Penang. The one on the right is also another state called Negeri Sembilan. So a lot of times when we are doing our own stories, we researched on what we want to show, which state we want to show. Like in Penang, we wanted more the temples, the lighthouse that you see, the mangrove swamp, but also we want to show the beautiful roofs that we of ancient Malay palaces, which is called the Minangkabau. This was like early sketches. We wanted to show more mangroves because we have really big and beautiful mangrove swamps here, but unfortunately, due to greed, they are probably not going to survive in the next, I don't know, 10, 20 years. They're already disappearing, which is very sad. There's some, it feels very mysterious when you see the large mangrove swamps that we have here. So we wanted that to be like the entrance, the introduction, the pathway for you to reach into this realm of Southeast Asian monsters. And this is our cabaret, which you will see if you play the demo, which is now on Steam. So what is showing here is one is the mangrove swamp. The trees are huge, and it looks as if the house itself is coming out of the mangrove. And we wanted to show the the land coming out from the water, because here in Malaysia we call our land like tanah air, which weirdly translates to land and water. So we wanted to show we wanted a mixture of that as well. Again, we won't touch so much on this because we are filmmakers, so naturally we always gravitate towards film in our research. These are some of the older famous Malaysian films that we always reference or we look to, whether it's style or story. So with more of the local arts, on the top we have classic Javanese mask. On the bottom is a mixture of what you can find here in Malaysia, like the one with the wood carving is from a group, local tribe called Mameri. They live primarily near the beach. They have this beautiful mask that they carve. Then the one on the far right is from Sabah and Sarawak. So when we were looking at the masks for each of the characters, we wanted to have a mixture of them. So this is, we reference Java and Malaysia all the time. So our main character is Jabat. One of the reasons why we picked him to be a dragon, a naga. If you guys have watched Disney Raya, you will probably recognize the dragon already. But one of the reasons why we picked the naga is because across Southeast Asia, there is, you can find this naga almost every country in Southeast Asia. But there's a difference between how they look and the colors there are and the horns, but primarily this is the main connection that we want to have for our Southeast Asian monster and the main character that you will play as. And then we also researched on local myths about, for this guy's name is the caretaker. We took a look at things like local martial arts called silat. So a lot of our arts has to do with calling forth spirits, whether it's spirits of your ancestors or spirits of the land, spirits of animals. So this guy, this caretaker, he's actually called a Harimau Jadian, which is a were tiger, and he would, um, if you believe the martial arts silat, then some people can call forth him, uh, and embody this spirit, this might of a tiger, and become a very powerful warrior. But not everyone can do it. It depends of your own affinity to which animal and whether or not you even have the bloodline in you. Also touching a bit on one of the things that Malaysians or I think Southeast Asians believe, especially when it comes to people in power, politicians, powerful families. They're always accompanied by powerful spirits. Like this character name is Jin, which actually translates to genie, but it's far from what you see in Disney. It's actually something that can follow a generational family, like from one family to another family. There's also ones where only women in the family can pass down. So your grandmother passed down to your mother, and then if you're a woman, then your mother will pass it down to you. And then in the case of like if you do not accept this gene, then this gene will stay with your mother and will never let her die until there's a successor. So this is and also in a way jinns are also they also grant wishes, but also at a very big cost. So we believe here that very powerful politicians are so untouchable is because they have help from spirits like these. So this is one of the characters that you will see in Cabaret. This is a bit of a tease because we have never shown him yet, but he will be revealed closer when we are done with the full game. Um, so, if you know the legends of the Nagas, there are no Nagas without the Garudas. So Garuda is the enemy of the Nagas. There's a tie to the story in Cabaret, but I won't talk about it too much. But essentially, Garuda is someone that you will meet and someone that is from the Hindu legends with the Nagas. So when we were talking about the stories of women in Southeast Asia, a lot of our monsters have to do with our own societal topics that we want to talk about, how women are treated in our own culture. So like the one on the left is called a Pontianak. She's one of our most famous monster. Most of the time, her story is very tragic. Is either she died during child labor or miscarried, or is murdered by a man. So we wanted her to be powerful. We wanted her to talk about big issues about how women are treated, about and there's also a bit of a spoiler about what else she talks about, primarily what she eats. And then the one on the right is Mayang. She is based off on a very famous Malay music called Ulit Mayang, which is what fishermen used to sing and chant when they are about to go to sea, and they pray for safe voyage and many fish to bring home. So she is a goddess that you can meet. Also, we don't only include monsters from Malaysia, but we have these guys are from the Philippines, which you see. The one on the left is Eke, and the one on the right is Tikbalang. Uh, a lot of their stories have to do with um, warnings about strangers walking home at night, and things that go bump in the dark. And also some of them have connections to when the Philippines was being colonized and how the locals wanted to play tricks on the colonizers. So there are some topics that we touch on about Southeast Asian history. Then the one, these guys are from Indonesia, the one on the left. If you've been to Bali and see the temples, you would recognize Rangda, which is the locals believe to be an evil spirit witch. And our story is not that far off, but she's also a lot to do with um, how local cultures, how local people tend to um, see solitary weirdo women as witches back in the day. Like they are not normal, so she has been labeled as that. So a lot of her story has to do with how she was perceived to be by other people. Similar to that is Babi Ngepet, who's a boar. Um, a lot of his legends has to do with if your things go missing, like your money, your gold go missing, it is his fault. Like like you're blaming it on a pig rather than most likely another human being stole your things. So those are the things that the characters would talk about in Cabaret. Okay, so quickly touching on gameplay, I think this is quite familiar to some people. It's also called I have no idea how you pronounce this. I'm so sorry if I butchered it, but it's called Manchala, or something like that. Um, uh, but in our region, it's called is for us is similar, but I'm not really sure whether Manchala is very different from what we have here. So when we wanted to do cabaret, we looked to a lot of local games. So we wanted to feature a local game that's been played for generations. And me being a city kid, actually, I have never played this game. My fellow game devs have, so they were teaching me the rules. Um, so it was I've seen the game being played around, so it was quite interesting when they were building the game. I was trying to study and learn how to win. The board itself, which I will show in a bit, is to do with our um, our Dayak tribe, which is in Sarawak. These are the tribes colors that you see. So we wanted the art motifs of the Dayak tribe to be on the board. One of the reasons why is because it's tied to the board itself that we made has ties to local legend, Sarawak legend about a very, very large crocodile. So we wanted like carvings of a crocodile because in the legends is about um, it's named Bujang Senang, which translate to easy bachelor. I'm not really sure why it's called that, but essentially this crocodile is very large. It's also an albino crocodile, and it terrorized the rivers of Sarawak for many years until I think it took a whole group of warriors to take it down. So that's how the legend goes. And these are not that's not the real skull, but it's just a legend of this giant crocodile that we have in Sarawak. And this is the board that you see how we incorporate the legend. So the one on the left is actually your board, which is the white crocodile. So yeah, so this is one of the gameplays that you will be playing in the game. And then lastly, to I think close off the talk, I will show you guys the trailer of Cabaret. This song is by a group, Indonesian band called Samba Sunda. They're amazing, and they're also making an exclusive music piece for us for the game, which we will release sometime. I think hopefully end of the year. So hope you enjoy, and I hope the audio works. So yeah, I think that is all for my talk. Thank you so much for. Oh, sorry. Thank you so much for inviting me to talk about Cabaret. Is Cabaret is also funded by an amazing group called Wings Interactive. We wouldn't be here without their help. So if you want to follow us on our social media, there's Personal Theory at Twitter, mine is Larksy at Twitter, and yeah, that's about it. Thank you, guys.